Israel claims its forces have surrounded Gaza City and are expected to enter in the next 48 hours.
British nationals in Gaza have been able to make the crossing into Egypt, some of them, and escape the conflict amongst them. British surgeon Dr. Abdel Hammad, who spent 4 weeks trapped in Gaza. And Dr. Abdel Hammad joins us now. Dr. Hammad, thank you very much indeed for being with us. It's a bittersweet relief for you being home, isn't it?
Yes, good morning. It's big relief that I'm back home, happy to be with my family. Having said that, I'm sad really for the continuing loss of life in Gaza, especially children who I have been trying to save their lives in the past 10 years. And also, I'm sad that the efforts to stop this are not, we are not getting results at the moment.
Mm-hmm. As you left, and you had a difficult departure, of course, because you arrived at the crossing and it took hours to get through, and I'm sure there were moments where you wondered if you would get out. But you're worried, aren't you, about those you've left behind? I mean, not least but because there was a man who basically told you that you were abandoning them.
Yes, I think that's a common feeling among the people who we have met at the crossing. There have been many desperate people at the crossing. They have no chance of crossing into Egypt. But when they saw us as internationals leaving Gaza, he doesn't know me. He said, "Oh, you are leaving us to this and abandoning us." I mean, I can understand their sentiments, really. They think that our presence may protect them. But deep in me, I know that our presence will not protect them. But that's their sentiments, really.
Dr. Hammad, can you explain to us and our viewers what the reality has been like for you working in Shifa Hospital over the last 2 or 3 weeks while this war is happening around you? How did you manage to do operations when the water or electricity were intermittent? Where were the doctors and nurses and you going after a day in the hospital? Where were you able to stay? Was there food available? How dangerous did it feel? Because I think we all see the terrible pictures of war zone, but how do people like you keep functioning in those circumstances?
I have to pay tribute to the courage of my colleagues at the Shifa Hospital. I mean, they are working under the most stressful, most difficult situation. They are risking their lives to save the wounded who come to the hospital, including children. And I've been going to Gaza for 10 years, and I know that at the best of times, the hospital is short of equipment, short of electricity. I mean, we had, even in the best of times, we have blackouts during our operations. And during this period, it has been extremely difficult for healthcare professionals. Some of them, in the ambulances, have lost their lives. Some of them, in fact, were surprised to see that their own family has been brought wounded into the hospital and they have to deal with that. And some of them just exhausted mentally and physically to deal with the vast number, the scale of the patients coming wounded to the hospital at once. I mean, they come like a flood into the hospital when one of these airstrikes happens. It's extremely difficult situation.
Dr. Hammad, the hospital you were at, Shifa, of course, has been caught up in what's happened. The Palestinian Red Crescent said at least 15 people were killed in an Israeli strike on an ambulance outside Shifa on Friday, I think just after you had managed to leave for the crossing. The Israeli military confirmed it struck an ambulance it says was used by Hamas operatives. How on earth do medics deal with a situation where either Hamas is using human shields and hiding in these locations, or we know that there are targets which Israel says Hamas is using. I mean, either way, you know that at some point those places might not be safe.
It is not safe. I'm not sure about that ambulances. I mean, this is, I think, I totally disagree that ambulances are used to shield Hamas. These ambulances are bringing patients. But if you look at the Shifa hospital, about 15,000 people are just sheltering in the grounds of the hospital, thinking that this is a safe place for them from the bombardment. But unfortunately, any bomb dropped there will kill many, many people, including women and children. Unfortunately, the situation, I mean, for the medical professionals there is extremely difficult, and it is disastrous area, which I think everyone needs to stop the bloodshed in that area.
Dr. Hammad, I don't want to kind of draw you into the politics of this, but clearly we've had the American president calling for a pause. We've had our Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition saying that a ceasefire would be the wrong thing to require Israel to do. Other people calling for a ceasefire. What do you think is needed now in Gaza to help people there? I'm not a politician, I'm a doctor, but I think a ceasefire is important because it is a disastrous area now. I mean, it is a grave situation for the people there. But I have to say that as a doctor, when I have a bad outcome, we go into what we call root cause analysis. And I think politicians should work on the root cause of the problem there and find a solution. And yesterday I heard an interview with Queen Rania of Jordan with CNN, and I think she was spot on. She said any solution now should include a just peace in the region, and which doesn't include the supremacy of certain race or religion. And I think this is important for the politicians to work to provide the people there with a normal life. This can't continue like this, with now over 3,000 children killed there. I think this is a disaster for any human in the world to see these pictures of children killed.
Dr. Hammad, thank you so much for being with us.